You always come up with the perfect song. So it is my pleasure to introduce to you our speaker for this morning. She's been with us once or twice before. Reverend Pollard is a CSL licensed minister. She's been a practitioner I have here for the last 10 years. Graduate of the Emerson Theological Institute in 2020 and additional courses at the Home School of Spiritual Leadership in 2021. She's the staff minister at Centers for Spiritual Awareness in West Sacramento and teaches CSL certified classes. She developed workshops on self love, kicking love addiction, and attaining prosperity using the works of Catherine Ponder. Holds a Doctor of Education from Harvard Graduate School of Education, International Ed. Her educational pursuits have taken her to the countries of Zimbabwe, South Africa, South Korea, and Spain. And she believes the principles of science of mind can change your life for the better.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Jen, for that beautiful introduction. Whew, and I just want to breathe into the love that is CSL Rockland County. Um, I I have been here a couple of times before, and it's my pleasure to be here today. And I want to say it's just like Reverend Melissa has been saying pretty much all week. She has been spreading her ministry of joy all week. You've been paying attention. She says there's so much space in the and. There's so much space in the and. And so I get to address this idea of the genius of the and. So I'm just going to tell you right up front, the genius of the and is that it recognizes the whole. It recognizes and emphasizes living, being, working in harmony. You know, what looks like in your life or in any situation, it might look like they're two opposites. But the genius of the and is it knows that it's the same side of two coins. And what I personally love about our science of mind philosophy is that we take from the greatest philosophies and religions around the world. And today, this idea, this culmination of holding the paradoxes, we take today, or I'm taking today, I'm drawing from the philosophy of the Tao. So the Tao, just very briefly, is an ancient Chinese philosophy over 2,500 years ago. And in the Tao, they don't rely on an external God, but it's through our own actions that we find balance. We can kind of relate to that as religious scientists, right? Our own actions that we can find the balance. And they believe in the way. The Tao means the way. And the way is understanding that there is an underlying order that governs the universe. And what is important is try to understand how the universe works. So defining the way or the Tao, that's not what's important. The definition is not really what's important. What's important is to learn how to live in harmony with the universe. And that is absolutely the genius of the and. Now, we may feel like the Tao is very far away. It's practiced by people way over there, but we do have some of those tenets here. But it's not very far away. You know, I want to bring this to your attention. Some people believe that Winnie the Pooh is a Taoist text. It shows us the way to live. And one famous quote from Winnie the Pooh, Piglet says to Winnie, to Winnie, Piglet says, "How do you spell love?" And Pooh replies, "You don't spell it, you feel it. You feel it." And that's the wisdom of the Tao. The wisdom of the Tao is the beingness, it's the lovingness, it's the non-judgmental nature of us walking in and in life and connecting with one another. So I'm just going to go right into it because the Tao begins with a paradox. It says, the first verse of the Tao, it says, the Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. The Tao is both named and nameless, as it is the origin of all things. And as named, it is the mother of 10,000 things. So the way I want to look at this wisdom that we're given today is from this, it's this both and idea and the paradox of it. And it is the oneness that is encompassed in understanding that there is a wholeness in both and. So one of our tenets, one of our 13 tenets in Science of Mind is that we believe that we are individualizations of the one. And all people are an individualization of that one spirit. So that's foundational. It is that we are one, even though we look like all of these disparate and desperate pieces. It looks like a paradox, but we are that one. And one of the paradoxes of the Tao says that those who know don't speak, and those who speak, they don't know. This is the quotation in relation to oneness. And it means to me that when you're connected to oneness, you do not need to speak it. If you know, you know. And when you're connected to oneness, you realize that there's one source, that there is only one. And the Tao asks us to take this to understand that human life is just a small part of a larger process in nature. And the only human actions that make sense are those which flow in accord with the flow of nature. And to treat the gain or the loss that is experienced by someone else, treat it as your own with absolutely no judgment. So one of the things I saw on Facebook, what I thought was very interesting and absolutely sort of helps us hold this both and in our mind, is there's a post going around and it shows a little girl. And the question says, are you Jewish or Muslim? Which, may be an important question to some now. And the little girl, she's sitting there, she's got dirt on her face, she's got torn clothes. I know some of you have seen this. And the answer, she says, I am hungry. I am hungry. When you understand this idea that we are all one, it does not matter from which tradition that you are coming. It does not matter who is right or who is wrong or who you think is the enemies. All our thoughts, they take us to understand that we're one, that there's a bigger picture. When you support humanity, you support that bigger picture. And so just that recognition of the fact that we are one and it doesn't matter, that recognition is what makes that post for me. The first time I saw it, I just took that gasp, that, oh, and my heart just sort of skipped a beat. It doesn't matter. We are one. So talking about the Taoist, in Taoist metaphysics, there's no distinction between good and bad. Along dichotomous moral judgments or perceptions, there's not a real duality, and it is the symbol of the yin and the yang, which is very important, which represents that whole. So now I'm going to hold up this and see if it works, this little sheet of paper. Can you see sort of the yin and the yang symbol, right? So you see that yin and yang right there. This is high tech right here. You see that yin and that yang. You see the yin and the yang, and it looks like it's seemingly opposites, right? But if you look at it really closely, there's a little dot of the white within the black, and there's a little dot of the black within the white. And the whole symbology of it is that it is wholeness. And we see this yin and yang. We've probably seen it since we're teenagers. I got a necklace that with the little yin and yang symbol on it. But what it symbolizes is that idea of what you are perceiving as two opposites, as two things that may not be connected, are interconnected. They are absolutely interconnected, and they make up the whole. That it's not a contradiction, it's not an opposition to an absolute, that it is one, that all of life is interconnected, and that the yin and the yang kind of push one another and make that whole. That the yin and the yang help us in perceiving change and development. And the idea is to be able to hold those contradictions in your mind, because you're in pursuit of balance. The whole thing is in pursuit of balance. And I know that I was speaking with a friend, and we were saying, well, we might believe that these two things are contradictions, or that these two things are paradoxes. Then we need to challenge our own belief. We need to challenge our own belief in order to find where that connection of oneness is, where that space of wholeness is, that nothing is outside of that. And so I want to talk about 3 lessons of the genius of Anne, 3 lessons of the genius of Anne for me, 3 lessons within me. And the first has to do really with science, the science of mind. I remember when I first began the science of mind, it seemed to me like a paradox when I always heard Ernest Holmes says, there's a force for good and you can use it, right? Out in the universe. Okay, all right, great. But then at the same time, he says, but it's that still small voice, that force is inside of you. And so like when you're new to science of mind, you're like, how can it be both inside and outside and up and down? How can it be that? That can be a seemingly paradox. But it is indeed the both and. And that is really the space that to go to, that still small voice within. And so Ernest Holmes says, and I'm gonna read it from Living the Science of Mind, a much more sort of readable text. He says that the spirit is both the overdwelling and the indwelling presence, both the overdwelling and the indwelling presence. We are immersed in it, and it flows through us as our very life. Through intuition, man perceives and directly reveals God. We do not have to borrow our light from another. Nothing could be more intimate than the personal relationship between the individual and the divine presence, which is both the center and the source of each person's being. So that divine presence being both the center and the source of each person's being. It is both and. That is the miracle of the and. That is the genius of the and. That when you are in a space and you feel like there's not a way out, if you get still and you get quiet, if you ask the question, the answer is within. If you feel like you need to lean on a power greater than yourself, that yes, there is that power that is there to lean on, that is working in and around and through your life. It is both in and around and through. And that is the absolute genius of the and. It is both and. Spirit is both an indwelling and an overdwelling presence. And I love that. I love that. That was something hard to grasp, but good to know that the answer comes when you need it. The answer comes. Sometimes it comes in a flash. Sometimes it comes through another person. But whatever that question is, whatever that direction you're seeking to make, whatever that illness that you want to heal, the answer comes from within, and God speaks through others into our life also. Speaks both in and in. So we're taught here at CSL, we're taught that we are co-creators. And so you might think, well, you're co-creators, but you just told me about like the Tao, and the Tao is all about going with the flow, all about surrender. Believe it or not, it's a both and. So one of the biggest spiritual paradoxes, or one of the things I've run into, I teach a lot of prosperity classes. And one of the things that I've run into, people ask all the time, look, I want to manifest. I love saying this, so I know it's going to happen one day. I want that light blue BMW, right? Convertible, two-seater. Yeah, y'all all imagine me in that car. Thank you very much. Putting the power behind that. Okay. Anyway, so you be real specific. So they said be real specific. They said be real specific. So then I had to look it up, like the year that they made the light blue BMW convertible, right? Because they don't make them every year. Anyway, so I'm putting it out there, right? I'm being real specific. This is one of the paradoxes. I'm gonna Mary Manny Marcy, be real specific. Charles Raymond Barker, be real specific. Ernest Holmes, be specific. So there you are. And some people are saying, oh, be specific. No. Then you open another book, Eckhart Tolle, Joel Goldstein, and they're like, seek only God. Do not limit God. Why would you want to limit God? So wait a minute. So you're telling me, this would be most of my process teach my students. So well, what is it, Reverend Mignonne? Am I specific? Light blue Beamer, 2000 whatever, or am I like, God, grant me the perfect and right transportation? Which way is it? Wow. I'm here to tell you, right. You're right, Bonnie. It is both. It is both. I mean, the Bible says, seek ye first the kingdom of God, and then all else shall come to you, right? So you be specific, both and, right? You be specific in your request, and then you got to release, you've got to let go, you've got to go into that flow. And to me, that's a paradox of manifestation, which is the both and. Now, the second paradox of manifestation is sort of the little write-up that I shared with you all. And I've been really thinking about it. I had a conversation with someone who said, they said, I'm gonna reveal it. So they said, we ministers, we need to examine ourselves, because we tell people that everybody can have everything, but many of us are not in a relationship. We believe we have to be in service to everyone else, and so we cannot be in a intimate or romantic relationship. Do we believe that we can have both and? So it's having this conversation about both and, right? And yeah, you absolutely can have both and, if you can believe and accept that. And what I realized in my life, what has been true for me, because back in the day, the metaphysicians, they didn't have to quote Charles Bacher or Mary Manny Morrissey or anybody else. They quoted their life because their life was a demonstration, right? So what I have found in my life, and the demonstration, if the demonstration is in my life, then it can be in your life. If it's in Beyonce's life, you know, it can be in, who was that trying to imitate Beyonce? Was it Madonna that had her kids on the one rate? But it could be in Madonna's life. God bless her. Anyway, what I have found is that when we want something and we hold on so tightly to that desire, that really is that energy of lack. And when we release that, when we let go, when we let it go, it flows easily and effortlessly when we believe that. So it is this idea of having this deep desire and then letting it go. And then letting it go. I mean, and that idea of setting intentions, having that deep desire and letting it go, that has absolutely been an example in my life over and over and over again, not just with physical things, but with relationships. If you're having that tension with someone, you can pray about that, send them the good wishes, anything and everything you would want for yourself. If somebody you think is your enemy, somebody you think is against you, somebody, because if God is for you, no one is against you. But you can believe that, you can get that in your idea. That job is against me, my boss is against me, my coworker is against me, my family member is against me. No, pray for them, send them love, send them blessings, send them everything you would absolutely want in your life, and then release them. And pray without, I want to say pray without ceasing, but pray daily for them. Watch the change happen. The minute you release them, they come back. And then it's up to you to say, okay, do I want you back or not? That's been my biggest issue. Most of the time it's no. I'm glad I got over that. All right. But you could do that with a clean slate. You can do that in love. So how do we ask? We ask both seeking the kingdom of God, seeking the highest and best, releasing and being specific. And what I know for sure is I don't really want that blue Beamer, because if I did, I would have it already. Anywho, that's another story. But I like saying it. So you can like something and not really want to be there. There's a third way that the both and has interacted or has shown up in life. And it's a little bit like that praying for your enemy kind of thing. There's a whole book about, and I'm not sure we quite believe this, but I like the idea of it about sending blessings. I like more that idea of it's more about, it's sending blessings, but it's really like spreading the good energy, cleaning up your karma, doing forgiveness, and spreading the good energy. So the both and, how can we have what we want in this world, and how can we envelop that? And part of that is embracing the wholeness of who we are. It's like the song that was just sung about, there's that Jackie just, there's got to be peace inside your home, and then the peace spreads out. So the both and for me also is, you have to accept the shadow part of who you are. So if there's something, so you're like, shadow part, what is she talking about? So basically, if there's something about someone that you meet or you know, and it completely annoys you, then perhaps they're showing you something within yourself that you need to face, forgive, or heal. It looks like a contradiction. They look like my enemy. They look like somebody I don't ever want to be, but perhaps there are, as Wayne Dyer, who I love Wayne Dyer, Wayne Dyer would say, is my greatest teacher, right? So, for instance, for me, there was someone who I particularly thought was sort of peacockish. That's the only way I know how to say it. Peacock. She was like a little peacock, always running around. I don't know if it's the male or the females that have those big feathers, but she was always running around, sort of spreading those big feathers, shining her light like way too bright for me. I was like, could you dim it just a little bit, right? Dim that light. But then that's probably a part of my shadow self that I needed to heal. And luckily, I'm able to face those things. So, what are those things for you in your life? What are those things that people do that absolutely annoy you, drive you crazy? Is it the organization or the disorganization? Is it the on timeness or the lateness? Whatever that thing is, that is something that is your shadow self. And when you embrace that, when you face that, when you forgive that, and when you heal that thing that seems so opposite of you, that is embracing the both and. That is the healing. And that is the sort of moving yourself into a higher space. Now, it's not just the personal that this can happen with, but it also happens at a larger level. It can happen between groups of people. We're seeing that right now being played out in our world. And I don't know about you guys, but we used to have something back before COVID, and called spiritual cinema, where we would watch movies together and we would talk about those movies. And I just want to point out a few of these sort of paradoxes where these people had to come together to see the wholeness and to move forward, to evolve, right? So I did a little search on movies where like the enemies had to come together, these people who seemingly are completely different, and they came and they did it. So one was John Tucker Must Die. I don't know if I recommend that or not. Another one was Pride, and Pride is a movie about it's a movie about whales and some gay, very very gay people who went with miners, and they helped the miners. They helped the miners in the strike, and then the miners ended up marching in the gay parade. So two people who look like two groups of people who look like they absolutely don't belong together. Or Kinky Boots, and Pride was 2014. Kinky Boots 2005. Similar, a drag queen comes to a boot shop and sort of comes to a shoe shop making place, and sort of these people, and they accept them, and then Kinky Boots. There's a documentary called Istanbul, and it is where the rival gangs had to come together against a force. And then Older, The Man from Uncle in 2015, where a CIA agent and a KGB agent had to come together to overcome something. And then there's the ever present Disney and Toy Story. Believe it or not, Buzz, Alder, and then the other little thing, they had to get together. One was a modern toy, one was an older toy. They understood that their individual, Toy Story could be a metaphysical sermon. They understood that they were individualizations, both loved by this boy, both with their place in the world of the toy chest. That's just a few examples. So what I want to say really is go have fun with this idea. Any idea that expands your mind, any idea that makes you question, any idea that raises your consciousness is an idea worth exploring. And I hope that if I've done nothing else, I've at least piqued your interest to go and look for these ideas of difference and how things are just one of a whole, that it is a part of a whole. It's a part of a whole. And when you understand that it's a part of a whole, lots of things, many things in this world touch you deeply, because you know that we are all whole. And you I'm going to stop because I was going to say something, but you just want our leaders to have that understanding. We are the human race, and we are one. And we have a small and fragile planet that we need to protect. So the genius of the and is it recognizes the wholeness. It recognizes the oneness of us all. It emphasizes harmony. So let's take this message into prayer. So just knowing that there is one energy that's back behind all, and it doesn't matter if you call that energy God or if you call that energy the way or Tao, it is that energy that is both deeply within us and it is surrounding us. And each and every person here has that divine, intimate connection with that one presence. Each of us individualizations of that one, as we go out spreading love and joy and peace throughout the world, because it is the world we want to create. It is the world we want to see. And we are so grateful and thankful that we have that ability to co-create that world of joy, of love, of peace, of harmony. And so I release this word into the law, and together we say, so it is. So it is.